Hi girls and guys, it's Mr. Tracky and we're on the right track. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can basically turn your run-of-the-mill default controller, whether it's a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox controller, into a Scuf controller to match people who are jump shotting in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. And I'm also going to run through my sensitivity settings and settings in the game. And these are something that you can use as a reference, but I'm going to explain to you why I'm using these sensitivity settings to explain to you basically how you can effectively change yours to be better suited to yourself. So let's go over to controller settings first, and basically we're gonna talk about this, but again I'll say these are mine, they're not specific to you. You may need to use a different one, but I'm going to explain why I use these, and it may make sense to you why you need to change yours, and have a look into it to see if it's something worth investing in. So look inversion is left on standard. In terms of sensitivity, I have it on a 5/5. I did start on this game with a 11/11, but as time went by I gradually reduced my sensitivity. Now I've always had quite a high sensitivity on Call of Duty games, but in this one I believe the fact that we've got 150 health, sometimes 200 because of shield, it is a lot harder to keep your aim on somebody when you're using a higher sensitivity, and you need to put a lot more bullets in somebody in this game to kill them. So the difference between hitting that last shot is, I believe, a lower sensitivity, because the tendency for me when I was on a 11 was to overcompensate as the gunfight was prolonged, and I'd end up missing my shots, initially hitting them but missing them as the gunfight goes along. Whereas I find with a 5/5, once I'm locked onto that person, because I'm on a slower sensitivity, it's much harder for me to move off that individual, thus I land a lot more bullets. Now the way I found this sensitivity was obviously through a lot of gameplay, but if you go into a private lobby and set up some bots, I would say use a SMG, because they move a lot faster than all the other weapons in terms of hip fire and stuff. Use a SMG, pop a laser sight on if you want for just a bit more guidance, but when you're killing enemies, make sure that you are killing them off the hip. So shoot off the hip only, set their health to minimal health. So initially you want to be shooting these people and just landing the first shot, and once you start landing the first shot, then you know you are around the right sensitivity. Then put their health to the normal health within the game, and see, double check if you're landing all your shots off the hip. Then once you start ADSing people, it should be really easy for you to be killing these enemies. Really easy, guys. Obviously these two things that you want to keep on are gonna help you keep that aim on, so don't turn these off, because you'll have a real problem, especially using a controller in Call of Duty. This is just a tradition now, it's subjective whether you want it on or not. Sometimes I have it on, sometimes I have it off. Often I like to have it on as a marker that I'm getting shot in the back when I'm not really paying attention, but I've basically tuned myself to use this with play the game without this on. Sprint reload, I have that off. Stick layouts, you can adjust these to Southpaw, Legacy, and Legacy Southpaw. These are things that I don't really touch, but I know there are a few people that I know personally that have their stick layout. But this is the meat and potato of the videos. There are quite a few settings in this particular Call of Duty, because Treyarch have understood over the years that people want to customize their button layout to be better suited in the game. And with so many people investing in Scuf controllers, I have one myself, this is what is needed for people who don't want to spend £100+ or dollars on a control pad. Now me, I personally believe that it's quite expensive to buy a standard controller, and obviously a Scuf controller is a lot more expensive, so I totally get why some people disagree with paying this sort of money. So here is where you can effectively turn your Xbox or PlayStation controller into a Scuf. Now I will say this as a disclaimer straight away, guys, this is going to take some getting used to. It's going to take some getting used to. It's what I used to play on before I had a Scuf controller. The best way, if you don't want to effectively affect your stats, you don't want to destroy your stats, is to go into private matches and practice with this for several hours against bots until that muscle memory starts taking over and it becomes second nature. So if you don't want to destroy your stats, make sure that you use these setups in a private match against bots, because it doesn't matter in there, and all the intention is to get used to jump shotting. As you've probably noticed, I jump shot quite a lot. It's very effective in this game. There's also dexterity that improves your accuracy when you are jumping. So for me, jump shots, you see all the pros doing it. If they weren't doing it, then I don't think many people would. But the fact that the pros do it, it must say something about how effective it is. So you've got tactical, you've got lefty, you've got nomad. I know I'm scrolling through them pretty quickly, but there's two in particular that I want to pay attention to. You've got Charlie, you've got one hand gunslinger, bumper jumper tactical, and stick and move. Now stick and move is pretty effective because you jump with your R3 effectively on a PlayStation, so you can still heal with the L1, and then you ADS with the standardized button. So this one here is very effective for people that want to basically jump, sorry, beg your pardon, I was about to say bumper jumper, who want to jump and keep their buttons standardized because the muscle memory has already kicked in with healing. Now I personally believe this is one of the better ones because of the new healing system. You want access with your fingers without taking anything. The whole purpose of what I'm trying to teach you here is to not remove your fingers off anything whilst playing in the game, because to keep that accuracy there, you don't want to have to transition from hitting a button back onto a stick, so you overcompensate when you hit that stick because you're semi-panicking because you've got into an altercation with someone that you wasn't expecting. So this is one of my favorites here. And also this one here is bumper jumper tactical. Now this will flip out the heal button from L1, and L1 will become jump and heal will become X. This is my second favorite because you do have to remove your finger off the analog stick to heal, and as you know, you got to heal a lot in this game. So this one's quite effective also, and if you're not quite feeling this one here, guys, then you can use bumper jumper, which effectively changes heal and jump for the different buttons. But me personally, out of all these here, I would use this one because you're not going to really melee people in this game. It's not that effective and you have to melee them twice. R3 becomes jump. You also aim with R3, so you're literally clicking the button, which is quite easy to do, and still aim because you're literally pushing your thumb down, so you're gonna do it anyway, and you still heal with L1. So for me, that is the most effective button layout in this game. You can change your L1 and R2 to flick out, because I know some people don't like the fact that you have to press down so much. So if you're using pistols, sometimes it doesn't trigger the pistol because you don't push down the L2 or the R2 far enough down. So you can flip these around. I have trigger stops on my Scuf, so that stops me from doing that, but that will also be beneficial for a lot of people. So a lot of modification availability in the settings that a lot of people don't actually know about. But for me, stick and move is probably going to be the most effective way for you guys to emulate your controller as a Scuf controller and be able to jump shot people, because it's very, very effective in this game. You got high caliber on and dexterity, and you're landing them headshots, some all important headshots. You're going to make a significant difference to your gameplay without spending money on a Scuf controller. Right, over to graphics. Now, this does say that you need to make this barely visible. I've never followed this, guys, and there's a reason for this. This is mainly aimed at people who play campaign to get that visual benefit, that visual glory of what they've done with all this graphical work over all them years of development. But for multiplayer, you want to see as many things as possible. You know, when you're going down a dark alleyway, back of slums for instance, and someone's wearing quite a dark suit, it's going to be harder for you to spot them if you're using this setting down here. Me personally, I have it on 70. That's because the brightness of my monitor. You can turn this to maximum. That is entirely up to you. In terms of color blindness mode, I know a lot of people like to mess around with this. Me personally, I leave this as it is in the standardized mode. Right, I've done a separate video on this, but I'm also going to include this again, but I do a more in-depth explanation of these settings for audio in my settings video. Please check that out. I will link it down in the description, guys. I also will leave a tile for you to click on at the end of this video. So my master volume is obviously at 10. I use high boost. Now, there are so many people that are going to advise you to use Supercrunch. Now, I used to be a sound engineer, guys. That's the reason why I'm called Mr. Tracky. The Mr. is just because I couldn't get Tracky as my PSN name. So Tracky is my name. I've made music for the longest time. All of you that have been subscribed and are OG subscribers will know I used to upload music on my channel. Now, what high boost effectively does is boosts the important frequencies that human beings hear around the footsteps mark. It will boost all the frequencies that are important in that portion of a EQ. Now, Supercrunch will effectively turn up all volumes. So basically what I'm trying to get at in layman's terms is, if a helicopter comes into the map, high boost isn't going to boost the helicopter. It isn't going to boost explosions. It's only going to boost certain frequencies which are towards the treble end, in layman's terms, of the EQ. Now, Supercrunch will turn up all volumes. So effectively all it does is compresses the sound that you are hearing, so it's louder. Now, Supercrunch is actually aimed at people who have headsets, i.e. earbuds, that are in the bottom of your PlayStation controller, yeah, because you haven't brought a proper set of headphones and you can't turn them up anymore, but the sound is still quite low. That's where Supercrunch will actually be beneficial to you guys, because it will turn up the volume in a headset that is pretty low, which is quite frustrating at times. High boost will actually effectively tune certain frequencies in the game, making it a lot easier to hear. So I know a lot of people advise you to use Supercrunch, but Supercrunch turns up all volumes across the board in the game, so it actually doesn't make any difference in terms of pinpointing certain frequencies to make them sound better. So it's subjective to anyone saying, oh, Supercrunch is better. I don't personally believe that, but that's an argument for another video, guys. Again, I do explain this in great detail in my other video, so if you want to watch that one, then that is perfectly fine. So my voice volume is on 10. Music volume, I turn this down because I don't really like to hear music playing in the game, but I don't like to be completely bored during the menu, so I have it on 5. Team chat voice 10, FX 10, cinematic volume down to 5. So guys, they are my setups for Call of Duty Black Ops 4 multiplayer, and this is basically how you can effectively turn your basic default controller into a Scuf. So you actually have the same advantage as a Scuf user. There are a hell of a lot of people, I'm guilty of being one of them, who are jumping around in this game, and the reason why they are doing that is because it is very effective. Guys, there are many buttons you can hit, but the like and subscribe button, I hope they took your fancy, and as always guys, don't forget to stay on the right track. Peace.